But yeah, so we'll kind of sit there for 20 seconds, just kind of
grooving.
And then I'll bring you in and we'll just start having some fun together.
Cool.
All right, you guys ready?
Yes.
All right, let's do this. 3, 2, 1. Welcome back, everyone, to Get With The Programming, and this is our new series, Fan Service, a Programmable Debate, episode number 3. I'm Chase Ingram.
I'm Captain America.
And alongside with me is Bill Grundler.
Wolverine.
And we have a very special guest this episode, 6 times individual games athlete and 1-time team, and the Titan Central Region.
Dang.
Margaux Alvarez. Thank you for joining us, Margaux. I'm so happy you're here for this topic that we're going to be on, but, just thanks for being here.
Of course. Thanks for having me. It's always good to talk with you guys.
So what we're going to talk about, this fan service edition of Get With The Programming, is that we take questions from the fans out there in the CrossFit-sphere. That's probably
CrossFit. CrossFit fear-fitter? Cross.
Close enough.
That one.
And our first 2 episodes, we're dealing with kind of the same topic. We had Adam Klink, and he had started this journey of the 500-pound back squat in 5-minute miles. He'd done a 512 and a 500-pound back squat, and we compared that with Austin Malleolo's 600-pound deadlift and marathon. And then not but 2 weeks later, Adam Klink did what we thought was impossible, which was a sub 5-minute mile at 4:56 in a 500-pound back squat. And our third episode is actually dealing with one of the most common questions that came up after that episode is, what should be the female equivalent to this challenge? And, we wanted to bring in one of my fan favorites. Really well. And I could think of no one better to kind of talk on this subject and give us a better perspective of kind of how to look at this on the women's side than you, Margaux. So I want to thank you for jumping on with us. I know you're super busy.
You're good.
Before we get into this,
yeah.
I mean, what is your life like right now after your Titan Games?
I want to know about the Titan Games. I want to know about The Rock, man.
Yeah.
Tell me about The Rock.
He's super cool. We did all the filming beforehand, so everything was done end of January, February. So everything's done, filmed, wrapped up. I think they were actually going to wait to release this till next year. But I think with the pandemic and everything stopping sports, like they were looking for more activities and more content for TV. And so they pushed forward the date, which I'm really excited for. I'm really happy about that. But life's been crazy, still living in Vegas. Obviously, I want to say the industry here has been hurting a little bit because a lot of people that travel and visit have been down. People aren't traveling, that aren't going out. So Vegas has been hit a little bit. Things have started to open back up, but it's at like a 30% capacity or 50% capacity. So it's been rough, but just trying to do as much as we can here in the Vegas community, working with our distributor, working with sales reps here locally to get the new goat wine, which we bottled last month or 2 months ago now, 1 month ago. All the months are melting together. But yeah, it's been really good. The Titan was amazing. The Titan Games were amazing. The Rock's awesome, really cool. Didn't have tons of time on the show to interact, but he was always on site for filming. He was actually filming another movie at the same time. So having him come in and be there for the events and getting to talk to him about a little bit about the course or whatever it might be, wine, tequila, anything after the runs, that was a really cool experience. So I'm glad we had the opportunity to do that.
That's super cool. I want to know, obviously, when you're on there, I mean, we know your game stuff. We know your athleticism. Did you see it as a big difference or not that much of a difference? Or was it more kind of like Ninja Warrior-y? Or like what was your takeaway when you went to it?
Yeah, it definitely, capacity helps because you're going when you're running Mount Olympus, I would equate it kind of to a friend in the sense of the time frame. It's about 2:45 to 4-ish minutes, depending on how fast you're running it. But again, having that capacity is important, but also having some sort of gymnastic or ninja skill is great. I think of it as a little bit more of a comparison to like Tough Mudder or a Spartan race, where like you have to run a little bit, but you also need some capacity, but you also need some skills and being able to climb up and over walls.
Right.
So that's what it made me kind of think of like, all right, the Spartan races that I did years ago definitely helped. But I think obviously the CrossFit methodology and training, there were a handful of athletes that were there that trained CrossFit methodology. And I think that obviously helped in terms of endurance, but also recovery post the run. There were some athletes there that maybe were powerlifters. They didn't do as much cardio, so it was a different aspect. But the amount of people that were there from a variety of backgrounds was incredible. Like the amount of people that were genuine, good-hearted individuals. I think there's a lot of people out there like that, but to find them in such a small network of people all in one spot, I feel like that's really, really rare. And so I think The Rock and his production team did a great job of casting, pulling people from different backgrounds, different stories. Because it's about your athletic ability, but it's also about your story and maybe the hardships of your life that you've gone through to kind of be where you're at now.
Yeah, I really, what I think is the coolest thing is one, when you look at the great CrossFit athletes, they all have one of those stories. They all got hurt when they were training, whether it was college or whatever it was, they all failed out somewhere. They had one of those, and this was their way to get back into it. But then the other aspect is that you can take these CrossFit athletes, and it doesn't matter what you put them in, and they kick ass on it. And that's what I think is super cool. All the people that say that, you know what, we do this sport, we don't really do CrossFit. It's like, well, if you want to get better at your sport, why don't you do CrossFit and then put your sport on top of that? You'll be that much more of a badass. And I just thought it was cool seeing you guys out there. That was just awesome. Awesome.
Yeah. 3 of the 4 champions are CrossFit Games athletes right now.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, but that's a great segment into what it is that we're doing. We're looking at athletes that are doing like a vast amount of things that they're not supposed to be able to do, like this back squat in the run, which is perfect. And then even into the Pegasus. So I just segue in there. Sorry, Chase, I didn't mean to take your thunder on that one.
Slip it in there.
Slide it on in.
and so let's kind of talk on that a little bit. Well, that's kind of why we're here, but so Adam did the 456 and the 500-pound back squat. First person to ever do that, documented. Margaux, you were on seminar staff. How many times? I mean, every seminar we use that magic person, and it's kind of cool to kind of. I said from now on at level 1s is just put Adam's name.
Totally.
CrossFitter, just put Adam Klink.
Yeah.
You're that guy. But let's also, now what we want to do is what's going to be the girls version. And what's kind of fun is that I've seen every suggestion underneath the sun, both ridiculous and somewhat, well, don't agree with me, it's ridiculous, but some that did agree. I was like, yeah, so that's what I think too. But so I think to start off is, I think what a lot of people do, and especially in CrossFit, is they've gotten into this lull of what I call the 70% rule. And when they look at weights or calorie conversions, that they use this 70% number for the women. And what I've also noticed over the last 2 or 3 years, that is starting not to be fair when comparing against the men anymore, because how good female athletes have got in the last few years. So if we go by the 70% rule, and this is actually brought up by my buddy Drew Bignall out of San Antonio, it would be the squat conversion, let's say, would be 350 pounds.
Mm-hmm.
The mile, right around 530. But muscle ups, which we're using ring muscle ups right now.
Yeah.
The third kind of piece to this puzzle is 24 muscle ups. And what we're basing this off of is, we designed this 3-part, 3-headed monster. I guess you could call it Chimera too, but we're going to go.
Oh, yeah.
We're going to go with Pegasus. Maybe the ladies will call it Chimera.
That's funny.
We had the monostructural with the sub 5-minute mile run. We had the weightlifting with the 500-pound back squat. But in true CrossFit fashion, we want to see what the gymnastics component. And we said 30 unbroken muscle ups. And I say we as I pushed it pretty hard. And when I was
I said that
a benchmark workout, which is 30 muscle ups for time, which is a classic, I would say, gymnastic benchmark for CrossFitters. It's a pulling movement and a pushing movement, because I think, I saw a lot of people say we should just do strict pull-ups. But I also saw a lot of people said you just do strict handstand push-ups. It's like, okay, well, here's a combo movement.
Right.
So that's kind of what we're basing it off of for the men's Pegasus protocol. Let's look at the back squat first. So right now, the 70% rule would yield about 350 on the back squat. That's a pretty popular number that people are throwing out. Margaux, when you see that number, just with your background and you know these girls better than anyone does.
Yeah.
How does that kind of relate to you relative to what you'd kind of see on the men's side as like a 500-pound back squat?
In terms of like the number of women hitting that number?
Yeah, maybe that, or like, does that jump off the page more for you, like 350? Because for the men, that there's only one at the games. I think Scott Panchik hit 500. They might have some list more than that.
Yeah.
But there's maybe a handful of, I would say, we like to look at the games athletes as kind of like the tip of the spear, right?
Mm-hmm.
So when we look at all these benchmarks, it's like, we're going to create Voltron, right? We're going to take the best back squatter and the best miler and the best gymnastics guy and say, someone be this person. And so back squat, when I look at it, that is a rare number to see come up on the board for men.
Yeah. And I think if you were looking at like the 2018 games when you had like the back squat tested, I mean, from what I looked at and see a 350 there, I think it was more like 310, 315, 320, maybe 325. Not to say, again, this was at the games, not to say you can't go and hit that in your home gym, but 350, I think that's a number that it might be a handful or two women that could hit that. It's not that it's not feasible, but I think there's a lot of things kind of to take into account. Like, I haven't hit 350 personally. That would be nice. Back squat's one of my harder movements just because like I have longer legs. So like I would prefer to deadlift. My deadlift's 410. I'd rather deadlift all day than squat all day. So those are kind of some things that I look at, but I know you don't like deadlift.
You said that number. I know you guys can't see that because we're on a podcast, but I kind of bumped into my chair.
But like I said, I think that's a number that a good handful of women or two handfuls can hit. And again, like I think the landscape is changing, and we've seen over the years what Dave has put out to test the athletes, like year after year. It's like, okay, you can't do this, but it's like the next year they raise the bar, they can do it. I think of 2013 with the legless rope climbs, where like you couldn't use your legs, like no one could do it. But then in 2014 at regionals, it was like, cool, now you got to do 10 legless rope climbs while you run in between. Granted, that run I think was a beneficial, allowing you to recover, rest a little bit before, versus doing 10 in a row. But I think that's where Dave's pushed that threshold. So is 1050 doable? For sure, it definitely is. How many people are hitting it? I don't obviously have that answer, but I think it's more common this year, this time and age, than it was maybe 5-7 years ago.
I think it's important to note that when we are, as we are trying to program this challenge, is that, it took almost, since it was kind of whispered at first, we're talking about the back squat in a mile, it was like over 15 years.
Yeah.
And so we are not trying to program something someone could do today.
Well, and the other thing we need to remember is that
something that someone may be capable of like 3 to 5 years from now.
Well, and when Glassman started talking about that originally, he wasn't talking about a CrossFitter hitting this. I mean, if he was saying that someone that's doing this training is going to be able to do that, but he wasn't looking at a CrossFitter with the mile and a CrossFitter with the squat. He was saying this is a good squat number, like in the realm of the people that squat. This is a good run number, or a good run time in the realm of the people that run on a regular basis. Not the top of the top, but a very good time. Something where, like, if you're a normal athlete, you're going to be like, there's no way. Like a 5-minute mile to me, I just kind of go, no, like there's no way. Like I couldn't even train to do that. I couldn't train to do that. So, I mean, like that to me is out there. But, and I think it's, when we're talking about what numbers we want to use, we have to be very careful of, well, we need to make sure that someone can do it, or they're kind of close, or is it really like, I think, when I think of someone that squats 500 pounds on the guy's side, that's a big boy. When I think of someone that can run a 5-minute mile, I'm thinking more of like a lighter weight. They're a sprinter. They're going to have that kind of body shape, even on the women's side.
Yeah.
But those are two totally different people. Now you throw 30 muscle ups unbroken. We know athletes that can do that, but that 30 is tough. So like all of a sudden, I think is not to use. I think it's fun to use people that we have that are relatively close to that.
Yeah.
But they shouldn't be I love, what was that guy's name? The guy that did the the ultra marathon, the 500-pound. Was it? What's his name?
Oh, yes, I know who you're talking about. I'm totally spaced on his name. I'm friends with him.
Starts with a V. It starts with a V.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
Mike V or something like that.
Is that whatever his last name is? I apologize, man. I'm not trying to cut you down. I forgot your name here. But I see people like that, kind of like these, not so much CrossFitters, but they do a lot of running. They do a lot of squatting. Like they're more in that realm. Those are the ones that I think will have a shot of kind of coming out of the woodwork. But it's nice to be able to look at someone like, Scott Panchik, who has that, or you look at someone like, Tia, who's just unreal strong and unreal athletic and unreal gymnasticy, and Aramo and all those guys. I mean, they have such an amazing chalkboard of skills to look at. I don't think that they're going to be that far off, honestly. Yeah. I mean, even with the 350.
Well, and that's what we want to do is, like, I would say when making up this event or this challenge, if there's one person that can do one of these, and we're kind of looking at the games athletes because they're the best that the sport has to offer.
Totally. There are people.
Then one person should be or could be capable of doing all three. Right? And what I don't want to do is pick 3 things no one can do. I feel like that would almost be a little unfair. So, we
totally.
know some guy, and like Scott Panchik did the 500-pound back squat. And we know some guys can run a sub 5-minute mile. Adam Klink did both of them, right? So,
right.
We're throwing that. And then we know that there's at least 2 or 3 athletes on the men's side that can do 30 unbroken muscle ups.
Yeah.
Logan Collins, maybe Cody Anderson and Noah Olson. I believe
Fraser can do it. Fraser failed on 29 at the games. I mean, he's right in there,
Those are long wavy straps.
Wavy straps. So I mean, he would be in there too. So I mean, we have even on the women's side, we got the same thing. We've got CLB who has that capacity to be able to do that. We have Sam Briggs that has that capacity to do that. It's funny when you watch that, because we're kind of straying from the back squat part, but when we look at the muscle ups, the gold standard is 30 for time, not 30 unbroken. And I think that definitely is a game changer of unbroken, because there are going to be some people that are like, wow, I start to shut down at 20 or 21. That other 9's a lot.
Yeah.
A little bit out of reach, but possible. Okay, so let's go back to the back squat a little bit. So we're saying 350 for the women. Now, when I'm looking at CrossFit total at the games, this was in 2018, Tia 330, Aya Church 330, Cara Saunders 330, Camille 330, Barnhart 325. So you have Christy Aramo did a 320-pound back squat.
Yeah, that's huge.
I think she might be, and well, we're going to get to that, but
yeah.
So you have these athletes doing this at the games in game shape, hitting something 20 to 30 pounds less than that number that we're shooting for, right?
Yeah.
So I think 350 is a doable number, but still allows for the other things to happen.
Yeah.
I like that number. I think I like the fact that I think that number works with the squat. I don't think, and actually it was really interesting when we were talking to Adam, I agreed with what he was saying about not using it for the other pieces. I like it on the back squat because of the weight, but not for the effort on the other two. So I'm good. I'm good with the 350 on the back squat.
Margaux?
Yeah, I would say 350 again, just going off that 70%, which I know we said like 70%, being consistent, but looking at, like you said, looking at the rules or looking at the lifts that the women have hit recently in the past, like going off of that, where it's like you have a competition, you have people calling it, you have 330, 325. It's definitely feasible. So I concur 350.
Concurs. One down, 2 to go.
50. So now let's look at the mile run, because that was, we should give Adam his credit. It's like he did the back squat and mile, and then all of a sudden me and Bill were like, let's make it harder. Let's totally just kind of take away the amazing thing you just accomplished.
That was good, but
but can you do this?
Back squat mile, I think we can affectionately call the clink.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think clink sounds kind of
totally.
I like it.
Clink plus a little extra. So on the women's side, let's look at the mile. So This is where people are kind of all over the board with.
Yeah.
The men's a sub 5. Now, I've talked to a lot, and it's funny, it's like I've talked to a lot of guys who have said, don't change it for the women. But, you know, what people are mostly saying is that 5:30 is more of a relative time, because what they're looking at, and they've looked at the world records between the men and the women. It's almost exactly 30 seconds difference. I had someone reference kind of the average of the top 10 finishing at NCAAs between the men and the women on the mile. Also right about 30 seconds. So when you're looking at the best of the best, 30 seconds seems to be appropriate. My opinion is that that's only appropriate when you're looking at the fastest people in the world.
Right.
I think once you start getting slower, the 5-minute mile time, not saying that's slow, relative to a 3:42 and a 4:12 mile. Let's put that in perspective. I think that time difference should decrease a little bit. Because I'm kind of...
You mean decrease as in faster than 5:30 or like longer?
Faster.
Faster, okay.
Because as you slow down, 30 seconds at like a 5:30 6-minute pace is a lot easier to do than when you get faster, right? So like the faster you go, 30 seconds means a whole lot more.
Well, look at the difference. Yeah, look at the difference of Adam's 5:12 mile that he did the first one. And he's up, I mean, immediately he crossed the finish line. He's like, okay, whew, that was all right. That was all right. He does the sub 5 minute and he's on the ground rolling around. I mean, that was a matter of like 15 seconds. So that 15 seconds buried him.
And that's exactly what the point I'm trying to make.
Right.
30 seconds between a 3:42 mile for the men's world record and a 4:12 mile for the women's world record is a massive difference.
Right.
Right. You're talking the difference between, I don't want to do the math. It'll sound stupid, but.
Well, so I actually did the math.
Okay, Margaux.
Yeah. So it's, sorry to cut you off, but Alex and I were sitting talking about like, all right, from what I looked at, the men's. Say again?
Alex is nerding out like crazy.
He loves math, man. But we were talking about it because it's like, is there an arbitrary number people just pick and choose? And it's tough because if you said like the 30 seconds, that kind of gives a guide. But like if you look at the men's elite miles, what I found was 3:43, so 3:42, close, like super close. But that comes out to 223 seconds. And I was basing off of Adam's 5-minute mile versus like the 4:56 mile. But based off of that, it's about a 74% from the elites. The like elite min mile to his mile time. Again, just if I do the 4:56, it comes out to like 296 seconds, which is like 75%. So that 1% difference. For now, I'm just, because that's the numbers I did, but that's 74%. So if I take that same case for the women, we obviously don't know the time yet, so we have to find what that X is. We have to find what that time is. But if we take the women's elite time, now it's 4:12. That comes out to 252 seconds. If we divide that by the 74%, again, the percentage that we're looking at, that gives us about 340 seconds, which comes out to about 5 minutes and 40 seconds exactly. So again, that's, if we're doing the 74% from the men to 74% of the women, then that's like, all right, that gives us, again, this is based off of the 5-minute mile. So anytime underneath that, we'd have to just shave off a percentage.
Which is actually, that's a cool number, because then you're taking your 70%, that number isn't supposed to be the world's best. It's supposed to be top, like towards the top, which is about a 70% rule. So you're doing the 7% of the people in that division, not men to women, but women to women, which is,
so it's like the best mile 4:12
rule thing. And now we're only ingraining it.
I know. Damn, that's 70% every time.
Yeah. So again, like 74% from the men to the women, but again, that gives us a 540 for the women, 70% from the elite. And then for the men, that gives us 74% from that elite. So, but here's the thing though, if you take the men and you divide that, the elite men seconds, like 223 seconds divided by the 252 seconds for the women for elite, that's 88%. Meaning the women are at 88% to what that man's elite time is. And so if we take that, again, arbitrary number of the women, you have 300 seconds for the men, the 5-minute mile divided by the 340 seconds for the women, that would give 88%. So that's where it's like, not you want to just double check, but you want to make sure, all right, is 74% exactly what we're looking for, or is it biased to one or the other, but that's where you want to kind of double check the math, I guess.
Well, I mean, that's speaking our language, because a lot of the things we do when we analyze program is we just specifically go off numbers.
Totally.
Yep.
Be subjective. And the
Yep.
fact that you have these numerical values, and that is actually pretty fascinating.
Yeah.
So based off of that, I would say, again, if you're going off of that 5-minute mile for the men, I would say the women would be at a 5:40. Can it be faster? For sure. Totally. If I'm looking at athletes that could do that, like the first person I think of is Christy O'Connell. Like, obviously she has a big endurance background, but it's like, I'm thinking of someone that could hit below that. I'm pretty sure she could even get close to a 5-minute mile.
Okay. So, all right. So using that number, which those numbers are great. I was just watching a video that Tia was doing, and it was Tia's track running, whatever. And it was just her talking about what she was doing. She's out there running with Matt, and they're doing their thing. And she talked about like her background, which is really weird. I mean, of all the stuff I've seen of Tia, when I think of her background, I think of Olympic lifting. But she said that her background was track and field. She ran the 800 in the mile,
Yep.
and her best 800 was a 2:03.
Oh, wow.
Sorry, 2:08. 2:08. So if we're looking at that, all of a sudden it's like 5:40. She's gonna smash 5:40.
Yeah.
You know, and granted, that's when she's in shape and just training for running and all that kind of stuff. So,
Track.
What's that?
Training specifically for
track, right?
Yeah.
Because I think that was that is what she wanted to make the Olympics in when she was younger.
In school.
Yeah. Was track.
Yep.
And then she did it in weightlifting, oddly enough.
Which is weird, because all of a sudden here we are talking about the fast mile and the heavy back squat. And it's like, well, you just made that career change in that exact thing. Interesting.
That's funny.
Okay, so Margaux, I really like those numbers, because now we at least have some type of baseline to go off of. Before, we were just kind of shooting numbers out in the dark, and I feel like most people said 350 and 530 because the numbers looked good.
Yeah,
like
probably
5-minute.
Yeah. Like, it looks good, like that's great, but how do you have like data to back it up or points to back it up?
Appropriate too. And so that's where I like the blend between the two cases that you're making, because you know, that 540 based off the, percentage difference between the elites and what Adam did, and then you base that off the women's side, I think very fascinating. And then you look at how good some of these CrossFit athletes already are.
Right.
At running. And that's that's where the conversation starts. Yeah.
And you could even, like, and Alex and I were talking about it, like, if you go for the back squat, like, there's so many other factors that go into it. So like, so you go look at the records, right, where there's different age groups, there's raw, there's assisted, there's all these other things that play into factors. So it's like, you could try to go and like, go look in every age group and do that. But it's, again, if you're just looking at the elite fastest time, you have a little more easier time finding that number. So then you can kind of calculate from there.
Yeah. And that's when it's hard. It's like, we are kind of basing these squat numbers off our collective.
Yeah. Well, and that squat number, that wasn't based off the elite, because if we did that, we're looking at like 50%.
Yeah, exactly.
And if we're going 50% on everything, then all of a sudden it's like, okay, so then the back squat becomes a hard part, because then the run, what's the run going to end up being? 6 something, and the muscle ups are going to be like 12. It's like, oh, every CrossFitter can do that. Well, I can't do the back squat part, but I can do the other stuff, so I'm good.
But so 540 based off the percentage of kind of what the elite times are, what Adam did, and then you said it was 74%.
Yeah, so 74% from Adam to the elite male. So basing in the same off for the women, 74%. That'd be off of the 412 for the elite. It would be a 540 for the women.
Okay.
Keep that in there for right now.
Yeah.
I say, mate. Well, for the time being, we make that the second piece. Okay. Just to see what it looks like at the end.
The third piece is the piece that we kind of made up. And I kind of want to have two discussions in this gymnastics portion. One, the 30 muscle ups unbroken as that being the gymnastics piece versus maybe something else. And then two, how's that relative to the women's field? So the 30 unbroken muscle ups for time, that kind of came in our conversation with Adam. And I prefaced it earlier as like, I like it because It's a kind of a two-part gymnastics movement. It's one part pull, one part push. You have the stability and stamina on rings that are dynamically moving, and it's kind of a sexy test to try to accomplish to begin with. It's more fun than other tests could be. But one of my friends on staff, Lisa Ray.
Love Lisa.
What about a 2-minute L-sit?
Ooh.
Oh, see that
things that was thrown out a long time
ago. Yep.
Glassman, it's the same thing with the squat and the run that we're kind of basing this off of.
Yeah.
Was that 2-minute L-sit. And I didn't blow it off when she brought it up, but I've always blown that off. I was like, that's impossible. Right. But I mean, when you think about a gymnastics test, the sub 5-minute mile is a cool benchmark test. 500-pound back squat is a cool strength test. The stamina, stability, strength, and flexibility you would need to accomplish a 2-minute L-sit.
Yeah.
When Lisa brought that back up, I was like, man, now I'm conflicted. Because I would much rather train for 30 unbroken.
Yeah, because it's easier.
I like the muscle up one. But when I look at it kind of objectively, which is what we really try to do here, that is a pretty darn good challenge.
Well, we've talked about too, like in the past, it's like isometric contractions, like a hold, right, are a little bit more than a concentric or eccentric movement, right? Think of like the GHD setup where they're out, your body's bracing, your core is bracing, your midline's bracing while you're doing that movement. So it's like, now can you be in that position, in a flex position, specifically for the L-sit, where you might have a little bit of flexion in the spine, but can you hold that position? One, like the first thing I think of was like, man, my hips would start to cramp. But it's like 2 minutes. That's a good amount of time. I think like the most I've ever held was like, and this is when I was training full time, like a little over a minute. Like a minute and a couple seconds or whatever it was. So it's like, all right, can you hold on for another 55 seconds? Yeah, exactly. Another minute. But something I was thinking, like, what about handstand walk? Like if you think of the run where you're on your feet and you're getting inverted, right? We're talking about, not that like if you see a bear, you're gonna have to run away from one on your hands, but we talk about inverted. We talk about handstand walking. If we look at, I think it was 2016 where we had, I think it was 280 feet or 300 feet of handstand walk. And so again, that's when you said 30 minutes, I was like, all right, that's a good thing, because we've had that for years, right? It's been around in the CrossFit realm for a while. But if we're looking to kind of change something else in there or input that for gymnastics movement, I think handstand walk would also be another good one.
Well, I think that's what you have to look at for that piece. If we're trying to make this triangle, we have the run segment. We have that monostructural segment, that piece where it's an all-out effort for that. We now have an all-out effort for strength on the lower half. I mean, obviously, there's going to be midline stability. But it's a generally speaking, bottom half is going to be working.
Yeah,
I would think that the gymnastic. I mean, not to take away from what Lisa was saying, because I've heard Coach make that mention a lot. I mean, and we're talking way back. He's always, that's a gymnast think that way for sure. But I would think that we would need to do something more that you're going to be using the arms with. So, I mean, when we were talking with Adam, that was the initial. It was right away we jumped to pull-ups, and he said that's when Dave talked about the pull-ups. We talked about handstand walks or handstand push-ups. Those all came in. I really do like the muscle up part, just because of the fact. I mean, I understand the isometric hold on the L-sit, and I get it.
I mean, I was just out there because I was like, I forgot. Like, I would have to train my ass off to do that.
No, 100%, 100%. Well, I mean, but even I think it fits. And this is, I mean, granted, this is coming from a CrossFitter's eye. It fits the triangle that we're trying to put together. Yeah. You know, I mean, I think that as CrossFitters, we have a very good look at what a very well-rounded individual should do. I don't think that any of those would be circus freak attempts, whether you're running your mile or you're doing your back squat. That's not like a show. I don't see muscle ups as being a show. I kind of see the handstand walk as being a little bit of a show, not because it's not a good movement. It is a good movement. But I think if I was picturing that, I think I'd see someone like handstand walking around the pool or something like that. But I'm the lifeguard. Check me out. I'm doing some handstand walks before I before I jump in to rescue you. You know. But I think it has to be something over top though. I think it has to be something with the arms. It's got to be something like that.
Yeah.
That was, and that's I just wanted to kind of spitball different ideas.
Yeah, no, totally.
Solidify what this should be, because obviously we're making this up, right? We're doing this for fun, but we want to make sure it is a good test that people would want to take on. And I would rather take on a handstand walk challenge or a muscle up challenge, like I said, before I ever try to take on an elephant. That just sounds miserable to me.
So I think of it, if we look at like time frame, right? Like how long does a back squat take? 5-10 seconds?
If I was doing 500 pounds, it would be about a 2.5 second drop to the ground.
That's funny. But if we think about it, right? So that's like the CPK system. So super quick, short, 5-10 seconds ish, right?
Yeah.
Depending on the ascent.
Right.
If we look at the run, right? For 3.5, 3:45 to 5 minutes ish, whatever, a little longer. So if we're looking at some sort of equivalent in gymnastics, would we look at the strength component of gymnastics, like an iron cross, for example? Or we'd look, I know your eyes, or would we look at like more of that endurance aspect, whether it's a 30 muscle ups, like can you do them for time, right? Like can you do it in a minute 30 or whatever it is, 2 minutes, 3 minutes? Or are we looking for like that max set? Like how many can you do unbroken? Why stop at 30? If it's a max set, why not go for more? But again, then I'll try to change the test of what we're looking at.
Yeah. I think giving them a specific number to hit, because like, we gave them 5 minutes to break for the men in a 500 pound, and we're giving them numbers to go for.
Yeah.
I think the 30 is, like I said, it's one of those that I think it is a decent test of kind of a lot of those things that you just mentioned, because you can't be weak and do 30 muscle ups for time.
No way.
Yeah.
You can't have bad endurance and do 30 muscle ups unbroken. Like I think it checks a lot of boxes, especially when you're looking at those 10 general physical skills.
Yep.
Right.
And so, some flexibility there too.
Oh my gosh. Yeah. Could you imagine? It's like, I can't even like reach back and get my arms through and, be getting those good positions. And so that's the one that kind of keeps coming up, is it touches a lot of bases, where I think the other ones are very singular. Although, I mean, you can't get more singular than a squat and a run, I guess.
Right. Yeah. But even still though, I looked at kind of the classic version of the 30, maybe making it 2-minute max muscle ups. But I think what's going to end up having somebody win in that particular element is going to be, okay, they're going to have range of motion, or they're going to start to modify their movement to get faster reps. You're going to start seeing weird butterfly muscle ups, and just weird things like that, rather than, okay, can you just hold on and go? Like if you're running, maybe you're Samantha Briggs and you don't have like the prettiest running style, but she's going to blow doors on everybody. So you can't say that like she's doing it incorrectly. It's like the thing is, can you break this time? The squat is, can you break this weight? This one is, can you do this task? So I think that like if you look at it singular that way, that becomes the shelf. Here's the shelf time-wise. Here's the shelf weight-wise. Here's the shelf rep-wise. And plus, I mean, we do the – I do like this is in our realm, the 30 muscle-ups has been something that we've had. It was never the 30 unbroken, though. It was a 30 for time.
Yeah.
But I think we're at that point now where we do have that, and we can have athletes that will do that and can train to get when you watch the women in the games when they did it that 1 year, the 30 muscle ups for time, there was that battle between Tia and Christy, and they both like muscle ups. They're both really strong at muscle ups, but they both came off at about the halfway point. Looked comfortable coming off at like 15, 16 right in there, but they chose to come down. They weren't losing it, and or having to do less than that. Camille, I think she did 20, and then she did like small sets after that. Because I went back and watched to see, okay, how much rest was in between there? How much could they train out of that?
Yeah.
To be able to go through those needed rest periods. They're not that far off. I mean, really, if they were training for these three things, I think we would have a pretty impressive attack by those ladies for sure.
All right. So say we use muscle ups.
Okay.
Margaux, I want to ask you specifically that 30 number. do you think that's an appropriate number to challenge the female athletes with?
I think so. I don't personally know of anyone that can do 30 muscle ups, ring muscle ups unbroken. I think there's a lot of people that are close. But again, like if it's the 30 muscle ups unbroken, I think it's something that people can start, if they're specifically training for this goal to say, hey, I want to be able to do 30 muscle ups unbroken along with the 5 and the 500 or 350, then that's something that I think is definitely doable. Again, I think it'll come down to like Bill was saying, like, all right, I think it's might favor maybe a smaller athlete that their range of motion is a little bit shorter. They're maybe a little lighter. They can cycle the reps. They can hang on to the rings a little bit lighter. I'd love to say I could do 30 muscle ups unbroken, but I can't. But I think there are athletes out there that would be able to specifically train for it. I know men already can do that. So it's like, do we keep it for the same thing, like the 30 and 30 men and women, or do we up that number? Like you think of calorie row, right? So men you do a little bit more calories than the women when you're rowing. So do we apply that same kind of
35
theory?
for men?
Yeah, like 35 or 40 for the men compared to the.
God.
Well, I'm just saying, we're throwing this out there. So
no, I mean that's a legit comment. That's a legit comment.
But it's just something to take into consideration. Like we've done it before with like weights, like cool, we're gonna do shoulder overhead. Guys are gonna do 135, ladies are gonna do 95. So you have that change of weight. So then when it comes to the calories in a row, cool, guys are gonna do 20, girls are gonna do 17 or 18 or whatever it might be. So then if we're looking for the 30 in a row, we know there's multiple men out there that can do that. So then do we say, let's up the ante a little bit, say, hey, can you do 35 or can you do 40 unbroken while the women are doing 30? Because again, as of today, I don't know anyone specifically that can do those 30, but I imagine people are close. I know some athletes that are I think Kristen Holte and a couple other athletes have probably gotten close where they're like 25 or so muscle ups.
Would you
that are within 5?
Do you think you'd have to make a stipulation of short strap or long strap or a particular length of the strap?
I mean, if you're trying to get consistent results, then I would say, hey, these are the length of the straps and set it across the board. I mean, you could even do the same thing with like the run. Like, hey, you got to run on a track, versus like I'm gonna go run on my own trail.
Run downhill.
Yeah.
Run downhill.
Right? We'll go run uphill. Right. So again, under the assumption that you're going to run the mile like on a track course where it's actually measured out, et cetera, then I would imagine you want to keep that same standard.
You have to do that.
Yeah, for sure. Whether they be long or short, whatever you decide, they just have to be the same for people that are doing it. Because that for sure, long straps for sure play a part into it.
Oh, totally.
Yeah,
totally.
At the games in 2018, story time. we were all debating who would do it unbroken. And I think I was one of the only people that said no one, both on the men and the women.
Really?
Oh, yeah. Everyone's like, 5 guys are going to do it. I'm like, no, they're not. It's long straps. It is like long straps.
You're so lucky because Fraser was like at 29. And there was someone else that was at 29, I think, too.
Logan Collins.
Oh, yeah. You're like this.
All the other broadcasters.
Don't do it. Ball.
Yeah, I've never been cheering harder for someone to fail.
But I think those straps were like 97 feet long or something like that on that Super Titan rig or that Zeus rig on that thing.
Guys do it, yes, but no one is going to do it today.
Short strap, there would have been a lot of guys I think that could a lot. There would have been at least if they were short strap, like classic 5-foot straps, 6-foot straps or something like that. Even shorter than that maybe. Just enough to clear your head, I guess.
Yeah.
I bet you could have had, at least on the guy's side, probably 8. On the women's side, I think the thing was they didn't have to do an unbroken. Their strategies, they played the strategies way more than the guys did. The women were very smart about what they were doing, and they planned that accordingly. If it would have been max rep, unbroken, ready, go, I think it would have been different.
I think it was Zeke Grove that got 29 and failed. I'm looking at it right now.
He did also? Man, see?
But yeah, no, absolutely. There's shorter straps that clearly will help.
Yeah.
Okay, so now we've touched all 3 bases. Let's kind of finalize this a little bit. I feel like we're kind of in agreement on the most part, at least. Back squat for sure.
Yeah.
No one has done 350 yet, but people I believe are capable of. And like I said, we want to make sure this 500-pound back squat and 5-minute mile took almost 2 decades for someone to do. So we're trying to create something that isn't one person could just walk out and do today. That's not a challenge, right?
Yeah.
Well, and hey, Chase, and I think we have to remember, and I think it was Daniel Petro that brought it up to you. He was like saying, hey, just because there are more men that have the ability to do this now doesn't mean that you should change the weights so that women can do it now also. I mean, try to make the weights so that they're right. Maybe it takes them 2 years to catch up to that.
Is like it took so long for someone to finally be able to do this. We want to make sure is that we keep something appropriate, that it is going to take serious work to put in to accomplish.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
It's not just, hey, I feel like doing this today. Boom,
Yeah.
done. It's like, all right, well, that was a worthless.
That was easy.
Because I mean, what Adam did is I think more people need to be talking about how incredible this was. So
yeah.
And then Margaux, that's why we have you here, is we want to make sure is we do something that is outside the reach of our current, I would say, like I said, all the athletes with a couple I feel like it's an appropriate challenge if a couple here and there in each one of the categories could do that, because it shows that it's appropriate. But again, the thing is like, could you do all three? Right?
Yeah.
In
like,
the same
Margaux,
day.
could you train your butt off to break, that mile time that we have yet to finalize? It's like, yes.
Totally.
But what would that do to your back squat? Because you've already self-admitted it's like that's not your best event.
Yeah, exactly.
What do your muscle ups look like? So, and that's the big thing we're trying to get accomplished. So, okay, let's go back squat. How do we feel about 350?
I feel good about it.
Yeah, I'm good with that.
I think that one's pretty simple. I like that number. All right. I think this is where we'll have varying degrees of of things. Let's go mile.
7:30.
I'm
totally playing. I'm trying to fit into the women's side over here. Come on now.
Don't mess with it. I would say the 540, just based off the numbers and percentages. And again, not saying that's not to be broken faster, like a 530 or 520. But I'm, again, like if you're looking at someone that can do all three within the same time frame, same day, like within that accomplishing that goal, I would say 540 is something that's definitely reasonable.
Bill?
That's my thought process. Can it be a 530, 520? For sure, I could see that as well. Again, like just going off the elite women's time as a 412, like people that are running that for sure aren't hitting a 350 back squat for sure.
Totally. Totally.
Nothing against them, like they're amazing. That's awesome. But yeah, it's definitely.
Man, I like how I'm so pissed that you were able to figure those numbers out. God.
Sorry, not sorry.
No, I mean, I totally appreciate it. I totally appreciate it. I just, God, the 540 is making like the hairs on my back just kind of like stand up all weird because that's such a weird number to get it. I like the 530 just because of what is just like the 500 and the 5 minute.
Yeah.
350 and the 530 just in my brain doesn't make me have like a nervous twitch. You know what I mean? God.
Good to watch you squirm a little bit.
You know what? I'm gonna go against all the data that you have, which is awesome. I'm gonna go with the 530. Sorry, gotta do it. 530. Jeez. Like I'm sweating right now. God dang it.
Sorry.
So coming into this, I actually thought it should be faster than both of those times.
You were looking at 5?
I was looking at, no, not 5. I think that's just a little, I don't think they should be exactly the same. I was leaning more 515, 520, because I was thinking about a 5 second per 400 pace slower than what the men's time would be. I feel like that is plenty of discrepancy personally, right? But Margaux, your analysis.
So then you average it all out, and then I win. 530. Boom.
Game's called I win.
Bill for the win.
I like my butt hurts from riding the fence so hard. I hope I could establish that. So, okay. I'll come up a little bit, Margaux, if you come down.
Like 535.
That's about 530.
That's hilarious.
I think for the sake of sanity, and I'm with Bill, and the challenge that I want it to be as well, because I was thinking 5:30 was too slow, but then Margaux, when you put those numbers together, I was like, oh, maybe it was faster than I thought.
Yeah.
I do like the 5:30 as the number.
Just because it's like nice and even, like 30 seconds on the zero.
It's true. That's part of it.
But I will say this, like I was more in your camp, like listening to Adam. So Adam had a pacer that ran with him.
Okay.
And it was this girl that she runs track, and
Yep.
I'm like, how is she running? And he's like, she was talking to me the whole time. Like she was basically running backwards the whole time, because she's got a 4-something mile.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh, okay. Well, then maybe that isn't something. And me and Chase, we've started to have gotten into this conversation where box height shouldn't be different, and the level that you're shooting the wall ball to shouldn't be different, like all of those types of things. So this came into that realm, and it was like, well, why, like, run, like they can run as fast as guys can run for the most part. And we are talking the world's record people, but I mean, it's not like you're gonna be slower because you're a female.
Yeah.
So I was coming into this today, I was like, no, 5 minutes. But then you had your numbers, and I was like, okay, I cannot go that high. That does not seem right to me. So I'm right back to where I started again at the 5:30.
Yeah. Again, I just try to like make sure, because we're looking at like certain points, and you look at CrossFit, and I think of all that numbers. Like I think about, how fast you can do certain muscle ups at this point in your career,
Right.
or in your life. And then 10 years later, 5 years later, 5 months later, you look, and I have 10 plus notebooks with data like over the years of the workouts and lifts, just because that's how we keep it and track it.
Right.
So looking at the numbers, I'm like, all right, how do we make this more than just like, I'm going to pick a random number? Because obviously there's people out there like, well, you don't have this and you don't have that. And there's always going to be people like that. Everyone has their own opinion. We're all entitled to that. But it's like, all right, cool. If I'm going to pick this number, then it's like, I'm going to at least have some sort of reasoning behind it. Again, like I said, can there be someone that can run a 5-minute mile? Hell yeah. There's probably women out there that, again, can they run the 5-minute mile and hit 350 back squat? I'm not sure, but that's why we're talking about it. That's where we're trying to like formulate, okay, can this be a test that people can hit in one day?
Yeah.
So yeah.
I know you got Bill all twisted up because you actually gave legitimate numbers to the number.
I didn't think that those, I mean, I was way more guesstimating. I didn't think that they were that off.
Yeah, but
that was actually that was way more than I was thinking on that one.
I didn't know where to start. So
yeah.
Gosh, thank goodness we had Margaux on for this.
Dude.
Talking about 4-5 minute.
Seven sounds great. Just pick that number. Duh.
7 little dwarves. 7 little chipmunks.
Okay, so we agreed to 350 on the back squat. We reluctantly kind of centered around the 530.
floated, if you will.
Floated.
Like I like the 540. And then the muscle up one. So I think we're kind of in two parts. Is like, and this is kind of to Bill's point, is like, I don't want to discredit the men's number because a couple can do it.
Yep. At
30. I do like it being the same challenge, because though I think it might be a little bit tougher for the women to get, just, that if we just go off basic numbers, it's like the men will be a bit more strong in that kind of that upper body pull push arena in gymnastics than the women. Also, men are more adverse to ring muscle ups than the women, even in gymnastics, because, the women use the bars that they don't use. So even when you look at like those specialists, but being it that kind of, I'm surprised 30 muscle ups for time doesn't have a name. I've always been surprised that that's not just a benchmark workout. Because I feel like we all
like the 30 muscle ups for time, just calling it that.
I feel like that has always been a challenge, like ever since I started CrossFit, like that's benchmark.
Yep.
But we don't have a name for it. I'm surprised that it's never gotten one.
That's interesting. I didn't think of it like that. I've done it ever since the beginning. Well, once I could do muscle ups, like it was to eventually work to the point where I could do 30 muscle ups for time.
Yeah, I mean, it's kind of a question like, hey, what's your Fran time? What's your Helen? And
you got to take 5 minutes to say exactly what workout you're talking about. So what is your 30 rep max for time of muscle ups on the rings with the short strap and the
but I do details. Broken element is that new wrinkle. Because I've gotten so good at it. I do like it being the same, however, for both men
and women.
Even though a few more men can do it than we don't want to fall in that trap of just looking at that one thing, because show me 6 guys that can do that, and then let's see what their mile time is, and then their back, right? They might get 2 of the 3, and I feel like
I think a lot of these athletes can get 2 of the 3.
3, and that third one is almost totally out of their element for most of them. So personally for me, and I'll start, is like I do like just 30 unbroken muscle ups as that gymnastics piece. You have the pull, you have the push, you have that stability, that endurance, and that power output that is required to do that 30 unbroken without coming off. Bill?
I mean, my initial is that I like it.
All right, good.
If we and done. I think if we were to have this conversation 5 years ago, I think we would have to say that the numbers couldn't be the same. Like, I think that the level to what the women have come up to over the course of the years, the competitive CrossFitters and what they're able to do now, I think that whether we've seen people at the games 2018 or whatever, they didn't go to 30 because they didn't have to go to 30. They didn't push to go what that limit was. I think if they were going to train for something like that or going to do something like that, the strategy would be totally different. The way they would attack it would be different. The training that they would do would be different. So I think the 30 is legit now based on the athletes that we have and kind of the direction that they're going. So I don't want to say 30 just because that's easy. It's an easy out to just say 30 because that's what we talked about earlier. But after looking at that, I mean, I was looking at that too. And you go back 5 years, 20 would have been a tough number for a lot of those athletes to get to. So I think the 30 I think that's a good number because we were talking, a 2 to 3 year-ish range when people can start hitting this if they were training for it. And I think that's a legitimate number for that. So I'm good with the 30.
Yeah, I would say right now is like where we're at. I think if you kept it 30 for men and women, that's good. Again, if we go forward in time, then that might change a little bit. There might be more people achieving, maybe more on the men, maybe more on the women as well. But I think for now, it's like, especially since it's been a standard for so long in the CrossFit realm, then we can keep that 30 across the board. Like, can you do unbroken? Boom. I think the men that can't do it will now work for it or hit that. And the women that are maybe close, they'll actually get pushed to do that. And then we can evaluate that going forward in 2 to 3 years when they achieve this.
Totally.
You know what I just thought about? And this made a challenge, or we'll call it a workout, but it's, all this is, I think it's more of a challenge. Remember what King Kong used to be?
Yeah.
Oh man. Yeah. That was a while ago.
You remember when it first came out and we're like, no one can do that.
Yeah.
I can't remember what it is. It's 1 deadlift.
1, 2, 3, 4 is what it is. Yeah.
2
muscle ups.
2 muscle ups.
3 squat cleans
at 275.
275.
So yeah.
And then deadlift at 455.
Yeah,
is that the deadlift? No, they're handstand push-ups. They're handstand push-ups. That's what it was. Deadlift first.
Yep.
Then muscle ups. Then the squat cleans. Then the handstand push-ups.
Yeah.
That's right.
5 rounds of that, right?
Yes. Or is it 3?
I think
3 rounds.
Josh Everett doing it and just totally crushing it. And I was like, never. Okay, 3 rounds for time. 1 deadlift at 455 and 320. 2 muscle ups, 3 squat cleans at 250 and 175, and 4 handstand push-ups.
Wow.
And I think at the time it was strict handstand push-ups.
Yep. It was 3 rounds, you said?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Think about that workout now. You're like, okay.
Okay, and?
Like, cool, got
is there a mile buy-in or something?
So what I'm saying is like 10 years ago.
Yeah.
Was perceived to be damn near impossible.
Yep, I remember that.
Warm up. So what we're kind of trying to do is like, I hope in 5 years people look back at this like, what are they talking about? Because that would show the progression.
Totally.
That what it would be. So I like it.
Yep.
I like that.
Okay, so all right. So let's go on the men's side. 500 pound back squat.
Yes.
5 mile.
Yes.
30 unbroken muscle ups, all done in the same day, and we're calling it PEGASUS. Mythological creature that was deemed to be uncatchable. That's what
He always has to put the definition in there. He sounds so cool. I get like such a Napoleon Dynamite. Like you're gonna start talking about ligers and stuff like that next.
No ligers or
Bred
no.
for its skills and magic.
Okay, so in the women's side, we said 350-pound back squat,
Yeah.
5 30-mile,
Yeah.
and 30 unbroken ring muscle ups. Now, do we want to call it Pegasus or do we want to call it Chimera for the women? The 3-headed monster.
Well, we don't have a different name for King Kong.
Yeah, I would say just call it Pegasus as well. So it's like same. It's just like the same thing. Like this
That's
is
the
Pegasus
workout.
and woman. Yeah,
That's the workout.
yeah.
Yeah.
I say that Pegasus for both.
Yeah.
And I think as people, how about this? As people start to be able to do this, and who knows when, maybe the challenge is now time frame.
The challenge is going to be the order and the time frame. We know it's in a day,
Yep.
but it's going to be the order too.
Want to structure the order? Just shoot. Let's now just someone try to do it.
All right, Adam, you're up. Adam's up. Adam Klink is up.
Yeah, I would say do it, and then from there, people can like start to get into the nitty gritty, right? Like, how are you going to do it? What order are you going to do it in, et cetera, et cetera.
Well, okay. Here's the issue: is as the athlete, you're going to know where your strength and your weakness is going to be, because everyone will have two
sure.
that they'll be okay, and then one that there's going to be the weakness. So they're going to try. That's why I think that you don't get to do Nasty Girls in a particular order. You don't get to do King Kong in a particular order. You have to do it in the order that it's written.
Those are workouts, not challenges.
What's the difference?
Oh, so the workout would be like for time and for reps, and we would score it. I think as of right now, it's like, I think it's only fair to let them play to their strengths to accomplish this. No?
I don't know if that's fair, and I just think that's you being nice.
Well,
I mean, because the event is this: run from here to there. You can run it on one foot if you want, or you can wear spikes if you like. We'll let you do it however you want to do it. Just get to the other side somehow.
Let's just see if someone can do it first, and then we'll start getting cute with rules.
Rules. If someone does this, I will be. Dang.
Not
Dang.
Because we made it up, but I love it.
Dang.
Someone do it.
I'm excited to see what happens going forward.
So who has a shot at it?
Oh, okay. So let's do this. Let's pick our top 5.
In order?
No.
Okay, good. Whew.
I'll say let's pick 5 men and 5 women you think that would have the best potential to do this.
Ooh.
Margaux, you can go last since you are our guest. You'll go first because
I'll go last.
I'm not ready.
I'm
okay.
not ready.
So I think Tia could do that very, very soon if she wanted to, with her track background, with as strong as she is in gymnastics movements, and her strength is just unreal. So I don't see her being that far off. I don't think, honestly, she would necessarily even have to train that hard to get there. Christy Aramo, I think, is also in that realm, which is shocking to me a little bit, just because she's such a great athlete, but she's so hi, and I'm just nice and I'm sweet. And then I look at this challenge, and it's gritty and ugly. And we saw what it did to Adam, and to know that she's right in there, but I think, her strength isn't that far off. She has that, every time there's a running event, she's always in the mix, and she loves muscle ups. Those are her favorite things. So it really does kind of play to her strengths. So I think she would be good. Sam Briggs, she's got the 2 down, and she's missing the strength part. I don't know if she could build enough strength to get to it, but I think that where a lot of women are going to miss out on the muscle up element, she'll have that. So all she will really have to do is just kind of hang out and do strength cycles for 3 months or 4 months to get that. I think Brooke Wells would actually be pretty decent at this. Her body has changed a lot as she's gotten older, and the different types of training that she's done. She has that track background as well. So, she's got more of a sprinter background, but she's super strong on the squat. So I don't see that being an issue. I think that she'll have the explosiveness for the run. The muscle up, she's good at gymnastics. She was a gymnast, so she has at least the midline stability element and the body awareness. I think she would have to train that a little bit, but I think she would be decent on that as well.
Is that 3?
I think that's 4.
Those 4: Christy, Tia.
Tia, Christy, Brooke, and Sam.
Another 30 minutes if you keep going in.
I know. Sorry, man. There's a lot of other people that have like a lot of 2s of the 3, like Carrie Pierce. I think she's got 2 of the 3. Kristen Holta, I think, has 2 of the 3. Amanda Barnhart.
Will you just pick one?
Sorry. All right, I'm gonna go Turi. I'll go Turi just cause.
Okay.
Yeah.
What about your men? Without the whole background explanation.
Okay. Sorry. Men's side, I think Clint could do it. I think he could. I think he could train. I think he could train to get the muscle ups. Which means he's got to do it now. Ha! He's watching that now. Right now, he's throwing his hands up in the air. You know. I think the increase that Matt has had on his sprinting, I think Matt could get in there. Plus, he trains with Tia, so I think that would be. I think he would be in that realm. Man. BKG.
Oh.
I think he would be good. I think he would be really good in that.
Good choice.
2
more.
I'm gonna say.
Remember, long pauses are always.
I know. I apologize. I'm gonna go Noah and I'm gonna go Logan Collins.
Ooh.
Yeah.
Logan's a strong dude.
Yeah.
Okay.
Sorry it took so long.
No, you're not.
I know.
All right. I'll go men first. I think Matt, Adam Klink. I like your BKG pull. That's a good one.
Well, thank you.
That's a good one. Travis Mayer.
Ooh.
Oh, yeah.
That's a good one.
Yeah, so I'm going to go Matt, Adam, Mayer. You keep BKG. Noah and Scott Panchek.
I think Scott's a good one. I think Scott's a good one.
Fine, right?
I think so, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
On the women, I'm going to say Tia, Brooke Wells, Christy Ermo O'Connell, Carrie Pierce. That run will be tough.
Yeah.
And I'm going to throw out Laura Horvath.
Oh, yeah. You know, she did really good on the muscle ups at the games that first her rookie year.
We always
really
see her
good
push-up issue, and we think she's bad at gymnastics, but she's actually pretty good.
She's good. Well, she was a climber. She was a rock climber.
All right, so Margaux, hopefully we didn't steal any of your thunder, but
you're good. All right, similar picks. So for the women, I would for sure say if I'm looking at top 5 top 5 athletes, that would do that. Christy Ermo O'Connell, Kristen Holtby, Tia Toomey, Carrie Pierce. I'm looking at Carrie Pierce and Sam Briggs. I think Carrie Pierce has a gymnastics component and the strength component. Sam has more of that run component. So if I'm looking at those two, it's like, oh man, I think Carrie Pierce and then Jamie Simmons actually.
Oh, I was thinking about her too. Yeah.
I really like her. She's a great athlete, and I think that she'd be someone that could do all 3 of those. So that's the girl side, ladies side. For the gentlemen, I would say I really like your Travis Mayer pick. I really like him. I could see him doing really well. I was thinking Pat Vellner, obviously had gymnastics aspect, so I think he would be a good pick for that. Matt Fraser, Adam Klink. That's 1, 2, 3, 4. And then I was thinking Dan Bailey. His muscle ups are pretty good. I think this was a couple years ago, but he did like so many muscle ups in 7 minutes. Obviously, sets, but I think he'd be someone that would be up there. Obviously, has a track and field background, but I think he'd be really well at that. I'm not sure how the strength component would be for him. But if not him, then I think Noah or BKG would be the other 5th pick around there, just because, again, Noah has that gymnastics component, so does BKG. It'll come down, I think, to that the run for that one. For those 2.
I like the Dan Bailey pick. I
like that too.
I think 2014, 2015, Dan Bailey could do it.
Oh my gosh, I was totally thinking that too. I almost said that with Ben Smith. You know, if we go with the 2015 Ben Smith card. you know?
Well, hey, okay, Margaux, I know you're super busy. Thank you for taking the time. This was a
Of
lot of
course.
fun.
This was fun.
Man,
I had a
I'm
Very
blast.
cool.
going to tag all these people in this and hopefully
Hopefully they go for it.
depending on what happens with the games this year, maybe they just try to do this instead. If don't have that, is just have some fun, train for a couple months, and
Totally.
show us who can tackle and take on Pegasus.
I love it.
Very cool.
All right.
Thanks, Margaux.
Thank you guys so much. I appreciate it.
Thank you so much. All right, guys, that
All right.
was our fan service or a programmable debate on Get with the Programming. Margaux, thank you so much. Bill, as always, a pleasure.
My friend.
And all right, everybody out there, you have your new challenge, and it is called Pegasus.